We are live. We are live. Welcome, welcome
Yay.
to Wisdom Wednesday live. I'm Liz Gabor. My company is Ageless Angels, and this program really is an opportunity to highlight the women who are in the Facebook group Ageless Goddess Vibe Tribe. So if you're listening and you are a female or identify as a female, come on over and join our movement. We would love to have you and tell your girlfriends. So this really is, I want this to be a platform for women to share their stories, their wisdom, how they navigated their lives, how they navigate their lives, and share the work that they do in the world and more. Really, we wanted to learn about one another. And then, I provide my guests with the link so that they can share it with whomever they wish, and their communities and friends and so on and so forth. And so this also came out of this how I felt deeply called to shift women's perceptions about themselves as we age, in addition to shifting our cultural beliefs around aging, because I feel that our world and our country now more than ever needs the full expression of women's voices, creativity, radiance, power, and intelligence. So this week's conversation is with the fabulous, my friend, Theresa Cifali. We met through our Master networking group, and it's a wonderful place to make friends. To create relationships and network, but really, I've made some really beautiful friends. I've had the opportunity to work with Theresa, and she's helped me a lot. So I'm really honored, and I really thank you for being here, Theresa.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, honey. And I'm going to just go ahead and share a little information about you, and then I'm going to turn the stage over to you to have a chance to introduce yourself.
Thanks.
Okay, great. So Theresa Cifali believes that when you do only what truly matters in your business, you win every day. Theresa has built 4 successful businesses over the course of her 30-plus year entrepreneurial journey. But she didn't learn that lesson until she was on her 3rd business and found herself working 16-hour days that made her feel like a panicked squirrel trying to cross a busy highway. Her frenzied path led her on a journey to figure out how saving time and make business easier while being highly effective. Theresa is now a productivity strategist and coach who helps service-based business owners do the same. She is the CEO and founder of Daily Achievers and the co-host of the Messy Desk podcast, which I highly, highly recommend everyone checking out. And in case you're curious, she is a lifelong New Yorker, a wife, and a mom to 2 grown daughters. Just a kid at heart. She loves to make people laugh. She likes chocolate, but can resist the temptation unless it's got nuts in it. I'm with you. And sometimes she gets tongue-tied because her brain works faster than her mouth. And you'll see that for yourself soon enough. Welcome, welcome, Theresa.
Thanks again. I'm so happy that you asked me to be here. I'm always loving spending any time with you that I can.
Thank you. Thank you. So what I would like to do now is just give you a few minutes, as long as you need, to just talk about what your story is, for people who don't know you, whatever it is that you wish to share, maybe some pivotal moments, highlights, things that you're most proud of, things that maybe we can, that were either positive or negative. We learn from both.
Right. Where to start? That's very broad.
I do that intentionally so that you can choose again. That's whatever comes to mind.
I'm definitely not all gloom and doom. That's just not me at all. I like to be a bright light. But it wasn't always the brightness that moves you in the direction that you need to go. So, I really want to talk a little bit about that 3rd business. Back then, I was working in the craft and hobby industry, and I had a publishing company. We published craft magazine, digital craft magazines, and ebooks and things like that. And it was during that time, I was actually really running 2 businesses at the same time. So I was working as a professional craft designer while I was still doing the publishing company. And that's when it literally is no exaggeration when I say 16 to 18-hour days. I was exhausted all the time. When my daughters were small, it was really easy for me to keep boundaries because they were the focus of my attention. But as they got older and they needed me less, I filled the void of that with work and other things that were happening in my life. I was in my 40s and, feeling sad, like I'd missed out on something. And there were things that I really just personal things I wasn't looking at or dealing with. And so I self-medicated with work. And, if you'd asked me back then what I really enjoyed doing, I would have said work. And it made a lot of sense. I was basically took a hobby, which was crafting, and turned it into a business. And so it was, during that time where any art that I made was for work. So nothing was for fun. I didn't have friends. I had colleagues. I would yell at my daughters when they would like run off the school bus. They get let off right in front of the house. And they'd come in the house and they'd be excited to tell me about something that happened that day. And I would just blow up at them because, hey, I'm working and you're interrupting me. But the problem is that I was always working. And it really was that went on for quite some time. The sadder I got, the more guilt I had, the harder I worked. Try to pushing away to see what it is that I needed to do differently. And then everything came to a head for me in around 2015. I had sent my husband and daughters off for a long weekend to Maine without me. And I was really excited for them to go. And I know that sounds horrible, but it's just the truth. That's how I felt back then. It was going to be the best thing ever. I was going to get 4 days all to myself with nobody to interrupt me, and I was going to catch up. And not only was I going to not be at the bottom of the big sand pit trying to claw my way out, but I was also going to get ahead and, the 5-mile long list. And then I remember the day when I just kissed everybody goodbye. And I stood at the end of my driveway, which is out over here. And I waved goodbye to everybody. And I came back in the house ready to get to work and stood in my quiet living room and just proceeded to bawl. I just broke down. And that was really, for me, the start of a whole new beginning of starting to look at my own stuff so that I felt better about everything. And it took a lot of work.
I just want to stop for 1 second, Teresa. I want to just double click on like the fact that, it's interesting because work addiction, in our culture is like seen as like, oh, you're such a hard worker and that's so great, so I could see it being one that's hard to get to that point until you got to that breakdown point in order to break through. So I just wanted
100%, it's like, because that is it, right? The harder you hustle, you need hustle and you need grit. And, you have to keep going through adversity. And look, and you should never quit, right?
Yeah.
Quitters never win. All the things that they say about society. And so, part of the transformation comes from being willing to look at your own stuff and to look at your limiting beliefs, to look at past experiences that you've had that have really helped form. My past experience helped form me into who I'd become. And I didn't like what I saw. And but even what I want to say about that breakthrough moment, it was like a weekend of epiphanies, really. And I knew that I needed to change. Something had to give. And I was the only one that was going to be able to change it. I wasn't going to find any answers outside of myself. But my first thought was to fix work. Well, if I can just squeeze this 10 hours of work into 2 hours of work, if I'm just more efficient, then I'll be able to get everything done that needs to get done. And the harder I tried to fix work, the more I struggled. And really what it was is that I had to stop and zoom out. Sometimes we're so close to things that we can't see them for what they are. Or we make them mean things that that isn't true. So pausing and stepping back and looking at all the things, just kind of like dumping out all the things that I wanted to be different. And then identifying one thing that if I just started with this one small thing, that it would make everything else easier to deal with and tackle. And so for me, that one thing was sleep. So by time I'd had that epiphany moment, I had horrible insomnia. Like my creative colleagues and I would joke all the time that we couldn't find the off switch.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is I just couldn't sleep. I would be up all night. I would talk to one of my business partners. We could be on Skype at 2 a.m. for like 3 or 4 hours. I would be exhausted all the time, but would fight through it. I never stopped to eat. But once I took little steps to fix sleep and sleep improved, everything else became clearer because I was no longer trying to fix things while I was mentally and physically exhausted. So I think one of the things that we struggle with is we all want, when we want to change and we want something different, we want it all right now, all at the same time. And the fact is that if you're in a place where you're not feeling good about where you are or you're unhappy, it just feels daunting. And it didn't take you a day to get there. And it's not going to take you a day to get out. So little small steps, making sure that I was starting to communicate, and which I wasn't doing before, and talking to the people I was living with and the people that I wanted to be close with again, so that they could help and support me along my journey. And then learning how to set boundaries for myself before I could learn how to set boundaries with other people. So just simple things like, I don't look at the computer 1 hour before bed. I don't look at the computer 2 hours before bed. The computer gets closed at 5 p.m. It's just like, so the little tiny tweaks. James Clear talks about the 1%. What's the 1% you can improve every day that most people will just discount because you're looking for the big leap, the big growth spurt, the big jump, the big lesson,
So good. I mean, there's so many things in that. Like, there's the first thing is like, that you started with the one thing with sleep. I mean, and how that can change everything, really, right? And
Right.
I mean, and then boundaries. Just learning how to set boundaries is so key for women, for all of us to hear. That when you sit,
Yeah.
is amazing. There's just a lot in there that you said that is really, really, really helpful, I think, for everybody to hear. So go ahead, continue.
I want to say that this happens a lot, especially for women, because we're often still in 2021, and we're told we're selfish if we're putting ourselves first. And it sounds cliche, if you don't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of anybody else. But it's just the honest truth. If you don't feel emotionally well, if you don't feel mentally well, if you don't feel physically well, then it doesn't matter what's going on around you. You can't be there for those people. So you have to be there for yourself first. And there's absolutely nothing selfish about that.
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. So, yeah. So I think, what you would suggest is people just to take a step, one small step, and then like just like do one, like I always say, do one push up or do just take a walk around the block.
That's exactly
Don't
it.
go and do a marathon, like
Yeah.
right.
Yes. Yes. So that's what's important. It's just picking one thing, and you have to start where you are, not where you can't start. Like, you can think about and vision about where you want to be. That's important. You've heard me say this before. We don't take nearly enough time to think about what we want life to look like.
Yeah.
We have to think about lots of things, and we have to dedicate time to it. And I'm not talking about sitting with a pen and paper and doing a brain dump, but brain dumping, journaling, all of those things are wonderful. But just time to sit and daydream and not worry about how you're going to get there. Just say, what's the one small thing I can do today to move in the direction that I want to go?
I love it. I love that. It's funny that I did my little Tuesday truth about that yesterday, about that we need to take time for recess, and people that I'm talking to, and I don't know if you're in your work and everyone's so excited to put 1,000 things on the calendar now that we're reopening, but to be really careful about that, because make sure you carve out that time and to have that I like the daydreaming and the time for nothingness, to just be.
Right. I call it the white space in your calendar.
Yes, I love that.
So it's important, not, for business purposes, but also for your like well-being. Like my digital calendar that I use mostly for scheduling appointments, all of my block time is also mapped out on my calendar ahead of time. Those are appointments that I have with myself to work in and on my business, so that I'm not spending all of my time doing that, or I'm not I'm not losing time to work on my business because I've taken too many meetings. And so my Google Calendar consists of many different calendars. You've seen my calendar, Liz. And so just at a quick glance, when I look I keep mine on week view all the time, but at a quick glance, I can see if I've booked too many meetings. Because if I see that, like, it's for my meetings are like a hot pink color. If I see too much hot pink, I know I've overdone it. So, and then it's not good, because if I've booked like 4 or 5 meetings in a row, which I've done in the past, by the time I get to meeting 4, I'm exhausted, and then I'm not showing up in my best way for the person who booked that time with me.
Mm-hmm.
So just got to be really mindful. It starts with being aware too, being willing to have the awareness of what you're doing, and say, it doesn't matter what you did before. It's not about beating yourself up or berating yourself or belittling or telling yourself or any other negative self-talk. It's about saying, okay, this is how I operated then, and this is what I want to do now. And then how do I make that happen? What's the first step? What's the one thing I can do today? What's the small little itty bitty thing? It doesn't have to be a big giant thing. Over time, tiny little steps add up.
When I think about it, when I think of your story, it's like, you went from this overworker, to now, your identity is somebody who, it's your work, but it's also your life, is someone who has balance and knows how to, make sure that you have balance between your work and your personal. And I wonder if you have triggers, and I wonder if it's still, if it's still difficult. I would imagine sometimes, because we all get triggers, I think, about certain things, but I wonder, it's hard to manage that.
Sometimes, because, I definitely can like fall victim to shiny object syndrome. I'm also, FOMO is a thing. For example, there have been all sorts of events happening for Master Networks. There are mixers going on that are open to everybody, and I want to go to every single one of them, but I have to say no, because I just launched a group coaching program, and I needed to focus in on that. I want to say this one thing about balance. Balance is a myth.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no such thing as perfect balance between work and life. I think of balance as like a seesaw. kind of. So if like you have work on one end, right? Because especially for those of us that have our own businesses, and then everything else in your life. So that's, spiritual, friendship, community, um, fun, right? Play, all of those things. And if you keep them perfect, like if you think of of a seesaw, and there is perfect balance, the seesaw sits on that like fulcrum, like right in the middle, and there's nothing happening. There's no fun in that, because the fun is in the ups and downs, right?
Mhm.
And what happens if you have the work and one end is higher than the other? It doesn't matter. So let's say it's work, and work is up in the air and it feels really exhilarating being up there, but now the seesaw stops and you're stuck up at the top. Well, you could lose your balance and fall off, right?
Mhm.
And then the stuff that's at the bottom kind of like suffers and settles. And the same is true the opposite way, right? So if you're spending all your time work, play, socializing, you know, taking vacations all over the place, you obviously are neglecting the whole work piece. So it's a matter of understanding the balance when the seesaw or teeter totter, whatever you want to call it, is in the middle, is where we rest, right? And so I just went through a launch. Liz knows I've been planning and working on this for months. And as it got closer to my launch, my work end was really high. I had to put in some weekends. I was going back into my office and working at night. It was a lot more work than I typically would do. I talked to a lot of people, but I knew that there was a purpose, the reason why I was doing those things. And I also knew that there was an end point to it.
Yes.
So that now that the launch is over and the program is starting, yes, there's work to do there, but I've come back center, and now I can rest and rebalance. And I've taken a day or two to refresh so that I can be focused and be there for my students.
Yeah. And then have some fun.
And have some fun
Right.
with it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, that's a great analogy that I've never heard, and I love that, because it is. It's a dance, like a seesaw, like yeah. I love it.
It's a dance. It's just,
It's a great.
life is not always, it'd be really boring if it was always level and balanced all the time. But it's just knowing, like, what are your non-negotiables? Like, I don't work weekends anymore. I used to work 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And yes, that included holidays. So, we'd go to whatever holiday gathering, Christmas, 4th of July, whatever, we'd get together. I would be dreading it for the weeks coming up to it. And then we'd get wherever we were going. And of course, I'd have my computer with me. And I'd be going, how long do I have to talk to people before I can go tuck in the corner with my laptop?
Yeah.
And I disappear and go work. Now I don't do those things. It started with, I don't work Sundays, to I don't work Saturday afternoon and Sunday. And then it also comes back to properly planning. So for the launch, even though I did some work on the weekends, I never worked a full day. So maybe I worked a little Saturday, a little Sunday as it got closer to the event. But I know that this weekend coming up, I won't have to do that. So there was intention behind crossing the boundaries that I'd set for myself.
Yeah.
And now I don't have to stay that way. And I know how it makes me, I know how it feels in my body when I've overextended myself or taken on too much. And I don't like the way that feels. So I will feel it in my chest before, like, I'm like, why am I feeling a little anxious? What's going on? And then I'll stop and look at what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, it's too much. So like knowing that I want to avoid that feeling, I planned out well so that I wouldn't be like working 24/7 for weeks before this event was going to happen. So planning is helpful for that.
Yeah. And again, like what you said, noticing how you're feeling in your body is like a really, a lot of people don't even know what that means, but it's like a process that you learn how to become aware of that, of what and they're like, oh, that's telling me this because you know how you felt like that before,
Right.
right? But I think I'm so happy that you found this, what it was. I don't remember how many years ago that you had this epiphany and started to
Well,
change.
it's been like 6 years, so.
Yes, and that's amazing. I'm so happy for you, but I also think that for people, it's so hard because of the way that life is there's no boundary, or there's no framing. Like, people have their phone in their bed, and there's so many things that people do that they don't. It's like, right? People,
Yep.
you feel like everyone could be in your house at all times, whether it's on the machine or actually, but it's just, so we have to put those frames like around our things in order to protect some sense of boundaries.
You do. And you can't, like, oftentimes we fail at, like, it's about creating new habits, right?
Yeah.
So you've basically, like sleeping with your phone next to you and it's the first thing you grab in the morning, or hitting the snooze button 10,000 times. Or, when you feel bored, going to the refrigerator and opening it up and looking for what you're going to eat. All those things are just habits. We spend, I think, 80% of our day just doing automatic behaviors. It starts with, I think, which has been threaded through our conversation today, is just becoming aware. How am I feeling, and what does that physically feel like, and what's making me feel that way? To also setting new intentions for yourself. So for me, not sleeping with my phone next to me, like, my phone goes on automatically on do not disturb at 10 p.m. every night. I used to use my children as the excuse to be tethered to my phone constantly, but it's not true. That's the great lie we tell ourselves. Somehow the human race managed to perpetuate itself prior to technology. So otherwise we wouldn't be here, right? So it's a matter of just being stubborn in those instances. So it's like, I don't sleep with my phone next to me. It's in the room because I use it as an alarm clock, but it's on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
And so when it goes off, I have to get up no matter what. And I enjoy getting up. I'm an early riser, but it's these little things. What do I want to start with? It's like, if, let's say, the problem is that I hit the snooze 20 times and what I'm working towards is getting up. Sometimes the little 1% might be, well, I'll only hit the snooze twice. It's like, no, it's move your phone to the other side of the room.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Once you're out, it's
right. So, it's like, it's kind of like those things. And like I was sharing earlier, if you're working all weekend long, if you're working 7 days a week, take a break. Give yourself one day. It doesn't have to be Sunday. It can be any day of the week you want. You get to make the rules, right. If you want it to be on a traditional weekend day, that's fine. But if you want your day off to be a Tuesday, make it your day off. And so maybe you can't have that right now, all right away, but you can start shifting and tweaking things so that, okay, I work Saturday, but I don't work on Tuesday. And so start with taking a half a day and get used to that before you add more. There's just so many different things you can do. It's the little small tweaks.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's what people need to hear. Like, people need to start with just little small things. Completely agree. Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple other questions.
Okay.
So I because of the topic of this discussion, and our movement of shifting the paradigm, I think that the way that the media and the beauty industry and the fashion industry and cosmetic surgery and all that they target younger people, and they make older people feel less valued, and so I think it's really dangerous and toxic. And I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
Well, I have 2 daughters. And, body image is it's hard because you don't need words. You see it all around you with the models on the magazines and, the airbrushing and, the commercials telling you how, you need to look better, right? Or whatever it is, whatever the norm is, right? Even though we're all different shapes and sizes. the most important thing I think I learned with my daughters was, because I didn't want to talk about things like that. Like
Yeah.
I actually grew up with, with kind of like that talk in the house a little bit. And I didn't want my children to have bad body images, and I think I did a good job. Like there was never like guilting or shaming around like food or body type or anything like that. But I had to watch my language on how I talked about myself.
Yeah.
And so, but I think the thing that's the most profound for me is the amount of products. So like you have sons. So, and I know you've been in the store, so you see. So you've got like the Ulta and the Sephora and you've got, CVS and you've got Elf and you like all these stores, and you go in and you just want to pick up a mascara and there's like too many choices, or like how many body washes do you need, and like
Right. How many serums and anti this and anti that. And I
right.
don't, yeah.
Exactly. So, it's like I see my kids like buying stuff that, it's like, what do you need that for? Well, it's this serum I'm like, okay, first of all, I don't mind telling, I'm going to be 52 in a few weeks. And I know, like, I know I don't look 20, but like, I have really good skin. I thank my parents because we have good genes in our family. Same thing on my husband's side. So I keep telling them, I'm like, you guys you're young. First of all, what are you spending your money on? But they buy into like whatever the hype is. And then you've got to add into the YouTube. Because like my kids don't watch television at all.
YouTube?
They don't. They just don't. They watch YouTube, whatever on their computer. YouTube, TikTok, those are the things they're looking at, like influencers. They're watching like the makeup tutorials, and and they're believing and buying into whatever it is so and so is saying, so that they can look young and like be prettier.
Yeah, no, that's what's perpetuating it, and that's what's so dangerous, I think. And it's incessant. I mean, it's all the time, right? And I mean, these 20-year-olds are getting Botox and these things. It's crazy.
Yeah, I just it's definitely a problem.
Yeah.
So it's hard enough being a young person, teenager, tween, like, because it's just happening younger and younger and younger. And I think that those messages were there when we were growing up. I just think now they're, 1,000-fold. It's just
the amount of information and images that comes past us is a gazillion times more. I mean, there's it's insane.
Like even take actors and actresses and go watch a movie from the 1980s and then watch a movie from today. Just like even a romantic comedy. It's like you would never see an actress or actor today be in anything that had crooked teeth or yellowing teeth. I mean, go watch Baby Boom or like something like from the 80s. They weren't perfect.
Right.
So like, you even just to watch a regular TV show or go to a movie, everybody's ultra perfect. They have the perfect bodies and they're the perfect shape and they're the hourglass and they have the perfect teeth and their eyes are spaced just perfectly apart. And then nobody's talking about like the simple truth of the matter of fact that people are having work done so that they're altered.
Yeah. And a lot of work done. And then I agree.
I wish I knew what the answer was, but I think it starts with the conversations that we have at home.
And I think again, like with age, it's really, like I love to like dance crazy at parties and weddings and stuff. My kids, and embarrass my kids and I'll do it when I'm 80 and 90 because I want, and for your girls, like it's like, have more fun, laugh, be silly, like show them that, like show our daughters that, and like that it's okay. They don't have to always,
I think I had it a little easier than some other women do. So like my mother went back to, my mother went to college she started college like in her 40s. And, not only did she get her undergraduate degree, but then she went on and got a 60 credit master's degree and changed her whole career. So sometimes um, when I'm hearing friends talk about the ageism that they're on the receiving end of because they're now in their 50s, I never saw that because my mother was reinventing herself, and she's I won't say because she'd get mad, but she's a fair bit older now, and she still works full time.
Yeah.
And she never stops learning.
That's amazing. I mean, that's a really good model, and that we can always reinvent ourselves at any age, right? And I mean, I see it in women all the time, having the best sex of their lives, best relationships, finding work that's meaningful at every age. So,
right.
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do now, because we're getting towards the end, I'm just going to do, basically it's like a speed round, kind of just going to fill in the blank.
This will be fun.
Yes, this is fun. This is fun. I love this part.
I didn't ask for anything in advance. I'm letting everybody know. This is totally go ahead.
Which I love. It makes it fun either way, but I love it this way a lot. It's spontaneous. Okay. Here we go. Fun fact about you.
Oh, I'm ambidextrous.
All right. So as you can see, you're sexy and smart from our exercise.
Yes, sexy and smart.
Okay. A TV show that you're currently binging.
Oh, I'm binge watching the Ozarks with my husband.
Okay, never heard of it.
It's on Netflix.
I'll write them all down. The Ozarks. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a light comedy at all.
Oh, then no. Light. All right. 3 things you can't live without, top of your head.
My children. I can't live without chaga. I've become addicted to chaga, and it's my coffee replacement. What's another thing I can't live without? Technology.
Technology, as long as you shut it down at 5 o'clock.
That's right.
Dream vacation destination.
Oh, I really, really, really want to go to Italy, all over Italy. But I really want to go to Sorrento because I've heard like really amazing things about Sorrento. And my younger daughter had gone a few years ago, and she brought me back all this stuff with lemons on it from Sorrento. So I really want to go. The pictures were beautiful.
I love that. I want a lemon tree. My superpower is.
Okay. Oh my gosh. My superpower is, it's actually it's my greatest gift and most tragic flaw. I can see all the sides to the story.
I love that. What are you most grateful for? Just one answer.
I'm grateful that I'm just able to be open to whatever is coming my way and receiving that.
Amazing. It all comes down to
self-love.
Yes. Success is
being happy.
Nice. I believe in blank.
There's too many. How do I pick one?
Whatever comes to mind.
We can't have quiet on live. Okay, so what is it? There's just too many things. I believe that by taking one step forward every day, I'll get exactly where I need to be.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Relationships are
important.
Nice. Sisterhood is
also important, but it's really essential for accepting.
I agree. An exceptional day contains blank.
A day like today, a beautiful breeze, time to be quiet with my own thoughts or to read, hand lettering, got to get some crafts in there, and dinner with my family.
Oh, very nice. Do you have like a favorite quote or words to live by?
Oh my gosh, one of my favorite quotes of all times is a Dr. Seuss quote, actually. It's be who you are, say how you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
Really nice. Really, really nice. Okay, just final 2 questions.
Okay.
What does it mean to be ageless?
Oh my gosh, it means not pre-qualifying or keeping yourself from doing things just because of how old you are.
I
Just
love it.
experience life and don't worry about the number.
Awesome. And when you hear, the term ageless goddess, what does it mean to you? Because it's different for everybody.
I think when I hear ageless goddess, it's like it's just being at your higher self. And that's what I think it is.
Yeah. That part of us that's timeless, that's like divine. Absolutely. Okay. So if you could just tell everybody how they get in touch with you, learn more about your work, where to find you, anything else I left out.
Well, a great place to follow me is on Instagram. I'm just at Theresa Cifali. So if you head on over to Instagram, you can follow me there and I will follow you back. And also if you have questions or you want to know, you can visit me at theresacifali.com. You can always contact me through the website. And also you can listen to the Messy Desk podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google podcasts or whatever they call them. So we're like anywhere you listen to podcasts, we're there. The Messy Desk podcast.
Awesome. Definitely check out the Messy Desk. It will really help you. I recommend it to so many people. Okay, so we are going to close out this week. I want to just say, Theresa, of course, I always know you're going to provide so much wisdom and heart and beautifulness that you are. And my thank you from my heart to yours for being on the show. And that does it, I think, for this week's Wednesday Wisdom. I thank you.
Loved being here today. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you next time.